grand old party split over President Trump's handling of the Epstein investigation, leading to a public war of words and infighting among Republicans. It caused last-minute drama in Washington last night, just as House Speaker Mike Johnson was trying to bring home a clawback of $9 billion in congressionally approved funds, which the White House ultimately passed, and the House itself passed while you were sleeping, netting a win for the White House at the expense of foreign aid and public broadcasting. Let's go to Capitol Hill and NBC's Melanie Zanona. Also with us, former communications director and spokesman for Congressman Hakeem Jeffries, Michael Hardaway. Melanie, beginning with the Epstein news here, House Speaker Mike Johnson having to answer some tough questions about his conference's wide views yesterday. What's the latest there?
Yeah, Johnson has been in a really tough spot here because he's caught between President Donald Trump, who just wants to move on from this controversy, and then some of his own base and some of his own members who are just furious over how the administration has handled this Epstein case. So initially, the speaker was going to try to move in the camp of Donald Trump, was just to move on, not to have any action here on Capitol Hill. But there was a growing internal rebellion that was threatening to hold up other unrelated pieces of legislation. So ultimately, yesterday, what the leadership decided was that they were going to tee up a vote on a separate resolution that would essentially be a non-binding resolution to call on the release of the Epstein files. Again, this is non-binding. It has no legal weight, but it was a way for Johnson to show members that he was willing to do something to address some of their concerns. A lot of members getting calls from angry constituents, particularly on the far right in these really conservative red districts. But Johnson making clear that just because they're moving ahead with this resolution does not mean they're not in lockstep with Donald Trump. Just take a listen to what the speaker had to say yesterday.
No daylight between the president and House Republicans on transparency. And he's been very clear that he wants all credible information, credible evidence to be turned over to the people so that the people can decide. We trust the American people in their judgment.
Now, the House still has not actually voted on that resolution. They just teed up potential debate on it. And Johnson later said after that little press conference you saw there that he's not sure when they're going to bring it to the floor or if they're going to bring it to the floor, given that Trump has now called on the administration to turn over whatever credible information they can from the grand jury testimony. So we'll see whether that's enough to quell that internal rebellion I was talking about.
So, Michael, I mean, there's actually been bipartisan support, bipartisan calls for releasing the Epstein files. There's this new Economist YouGov poll that was taken just over the weekend that showed 82% of Democrats believe the government is covering up Epstein evidence. Another 85% of Democrats want every document the feds have about Epstein released. Could this issue actually galvanize the Democratic Party?
Yeah, but Democrats are already there. This should be common sense. He's a convicted pedophile, and these records should all be public. The Democratic Party, in terms of the electeds and the voters, support the release of that information. The Republicans are the ones holding this back. Even Donald Trump's announcement yesterday that he wants these files released is kind of a red herring, right? It's got to go through a whole legal process. It's not clear whether that's going to happen. They should just release everything outside of that they can do right now. And the fact that the Attorney General came out and said, we have the list, made everyone think that a list was there and a list was forthcoming. They've now failed.
Well, I'm sure you've heard the president, his press secretary, just literally in the last 24 hours saying, well, the Democrats had 4 years to release these files. Why not?
Distraction isn't red herrings. That's what they do. They're trying to throw blame on the other side when they have the power.
But do Democrats
today.
care now and didn't care then?
I think it's different in that, first of all, Donald Trump, the president, was friends with this individual, which is interesting. His friend Elon Musk claims that he's on the list, which is also interesting. And then the other part of this is the Attorney General of the United States said, I have the list. I'm going to release it. I think that changes everything for people on both sides.
Melanie, meantime, House Speaker Mike Johnson did notch another win for the president last night, passing the clawback of congressionally approved funds. How was he able to do that?
Well, he was able to do it because of Donald Trump. Donald Trump is the not-so-secret weapon here on Capitol Hill. He's the de facto speaker, leader, and whip. So I think that was a huge reason why even Republicans who were skeptical or on the fence about this package ultimately voted yes. Now, what we're talking about here, we should point out, is a drop in the bucket compared to overall federal spending. It's about $9 billion here that we're talking about. But it is still going to have massive impacts. And Democrats are warning that people's lives could be put at risk because it includes around $1 billion in cuts cuts for PBS and NPR, which is not only responsible for funneling news to rural, sort of desolate areas, but also weather alerts, which of course are top of mind after those devastating floods we saw in Texas. There's also some extreme weather in Alaska just this week where people in the state were alerted via public radio about those weather events. Also in this bill, there's cuts to foreign aid program, obviously a top target of Donald Trump, but Republicans did beat back potential cuts to PEPFAR, which is a program that fights AIDS all around the world. So that ultimately is what made some Republicans flip from no to yes here.
Michael, we've certainly had this conversation before, but is there anything else Democrats can do other than play the messaging game?
No, I mean, they can delay, but they can't deny any of these things. They don't have the power. That's the way Congress is structured. In the Senate and in the House, they can delay a bit, but they can't do anything to stop this.
And Melanie, the Office of Management and Budget Director Russell Vought is causing a bit of drama there on the Hill. What's going on there?
So spending has typically been a bipartisan process here on Capitol Hill, but obviously this administration has taken a very different posture towards Capitol Hill, not only ignoring Democrats, but even steamrolling some own Republican members. And there are growing concerns of a shutdown come September 30th when the next deadline is. But Vought just only further fanned the flames yesterday when he made these comments.
It's not going to keep me up at night, and I think it will lead to better results by having the appropriations process be a little bit partisan. And I don't think it's necessarily leading to a shutdown.
Now, the White House did seek to walk some of those comments back, saying they believe that there is going to be a bipartisan process. But here on Capitol Hill, that is just not what the reality is telling us. Republicans are going to be dug in. They want to see even more cuts, whereas Democrats, they say, why should we agree to a bipartisan funding bill when, as we've seen with that rescissions package that I was talking about, Congress can just turn around under Trump's blessing and try to claw back already approved funding. So shaping up to be a real mess come this fall.
Michael, quickly, your reaction to the messaging from Vought, essentially saying less bipartisanship is the name of the game.
He accidentally told the truth. That's what they truly believe. And it's the Speaker's fault. He has made Congress irrelevant and that he's just a rubber stamp for the president. Same thing with Thune in the Senate. That's their own fault, so they only have themselves to blame.
Michael Hardaway and Melanie Zanona, thank you both so much. Up next here on Ana Cabrera Reports, an inside look at the conditions and camaraderie emerging from an ICE facility through the eyes of a former detainee. Plus, why it's so important to keep the Federal Reserve separate from the White House.